Good morning, St. Maarten. What's up? What's cooking? What's in the pot today? Beautiful weather outside. If I look there, I see blue skies and everything. Just gonna hold on a minute to make sure that we are on. And yes, we are. We are on today. A blessed Monday morning, February 20th. It's a very special day for me. Today, if alive, my mother would have been 87 years. That was my confidant. That was my go-to person for anything. Not some things, anything. 6 years ago, she left us. And I have a great wife and a great family. But she left a hole that no one can truly fill. And it was like in moments last night at the Congress of the Now, when by acclamation I was declared the deputy party leader, that I missed her most. Because I know my mother would have been standing up and cheering for the accomplishment. I will always love you, Mama. I thought I needed to start my show with this because today is a very special day for me. In the sense of the now has now gone in to real life legally, and today is my mom's 87th birthday, which I know she's celebrating in heaven with my father. Most probably having a good chat with each other, having a little whiskey coke, enjoying it. Someday we will meet again. So let's move on now, because I want to thank the people that came out last night to the Congress. You know, a lot of people didn't believe that the Now would be able to pull it off and become a party to reckon with. A lot of them shook their heads. Last night, with a completely packed Bel Air Community Center and people standing in the hallway, we made the non-believers believers. Different party members showed up to truly see if it was full, and they reported back home, yes, these boys and girls serious. We got a new party. We have a new kid on the block. And the Now, under the leadership of Christopher Emmanuel, has set out a plan. And the manifesto is nearly finished. Today, later on in the program, I'll give you part of my speech of what I said and why I said it. Because while I got a lot of calls last night and a lot of congratulatory remarks, I know that there are people wondering, why did he say this or why did he say that? And I'll try to give you a little scoop of it later. But let me move on, because I would also like to thank the Chizu Foundation for reaching out in the name of mankind to the earthquake victims of Turkey. Like it or not, we are very far from Turkey. And you hear a lot of things about Turkey, but 35,000 people lost their lives because of a very strong earthquake, and another 5,000 to 7,000 in Syria lost their lives. These are human beings we're talking about, not just numbers. So thank you very much, sir, for doing what you and your organization are doing. I am sure the people that are going to be receiving these funds will be very thankful. No matter how big or how small, everything helps. Now, while I read this here in the papers, and I said, you know, where do I go with this? Because I wholeheartedly support the national health insurance, which leaves nobody behind. But we must ensure that we have everything in place, because what will happen now with the undocumented? Because remember, they are not covered in the national health insurance. They are not covered. So what happens now then? Because you got about 10 or 15,000 undocumented people on this island. And I need to ask these questions, because these people are still going to reach the medical center. And the oath they took over there, they're going to have to help these people. How do we deal with those bills down the road? Because right now there are different little loopholes. The government steps in, this one steps in to help the the medical center. But we know the drama the medical center is in right now, and it's only going to get worse. Last week there was a whole uproar down there about the emergency room not helping the people and people waiting too long. If that's a problem right now, how is it going to become down the road when everybody's supposed to be insured and everybody can walk in there at any given day of the day? How does that work then with staffing and all? So again, you know, I had a problem with the article in the sense that the CFT mentioned it in the media, in their press release. I didn't hear SFV, I didn't hear the medical center, I didn't hear VESA, and that's what concerned me. Why is the CFT dictating what's going to happen to this country? I've said it once and I'll say it again. The CFT ain't no good for us. They never were, they never will be. They have maybe the right intentions, but they have the wrong approach and the wrong implementation method. And this is the biggest problem we get confronted with too often. We get confronted with things that don't go the way they should go because of the way we try to implement them. And I'm not going to take away that we had opportunities to implement and we screw those. I ain't going to take that away. Fault needs to be taken and accepted by us. We got to start growing up. If we want to take our rightful place at the table, we're going to have to also take our rightful faults. That's a fact. We're going to have to do that. Let's continue going on, because over the bank in the Vineyard Heights now suddenly is getting attention. About we going over there now to review the infrastructure. There's nothing to review. You don't have to go no place. Fly a drone. You'll see everything. The plans were already made 5-6 years ago. The plans were finished when, I think it was under Minister Myers, 2016 I believe it was. They went up there. They even made an agreement with the bank campers. We granted them part of the road in Erfpacht so they could have reached up higher into the valley so that everybody could cross over. Plans were made by New Works when the lots were laid out, how to get them from the bottom and higher up. All the infrastructure was looked at, laid out, price tags were put to it. So what nonsense you're talking now about you're going up there to review? Go and build it. Stop reviewing. It's an election year. Stop reviewing and go and build. All this talking is nonsense. Build it. The problem is you don't have the money for it. That's the problem. And you won't get the money because CFT ain't giving you no pass. That's clear. Last year the 15 million wasn't given because the budget was way over in a deficit, much higher than was allowed by law. And this year you're all struggling to even get a budget, more or less get a budget within the rules and regulations. So again, we need to know, or the public needs to know, that all the infrastructure for up there, including sewage lines and the GB street lights, all of it, ICE made all the calculations for the sewage because I myself was in government at that time, and we approved it when we built the sewage line, the water lines, and the high tension lines from Point Blanche to town. Anybody who could remember 4 years ago, we had ripped open the whole boulevard, Wancho Skin Boulevard, WG Buncamper Road. Everything was done. Everything was done. Lines were laid. It's a matter of connecting. Over the bank is a matter of laying and connecting. Let us not do as if nothing was never done, because that's the philosophy of this minister. For 30 years, the Public Works of Vromi never did nothing. He had to come and fix it. The one thing he fixed was making a total mess out of it and being accused by a lot of people for a lot of crazy things now. But that's for a different day, not for today. Today is too good of a day to go waste my time over there. But again, let's look at GB. Because the fuel is going to continue to rise. The fuel is going to continue to rise if we believe it or not. We can hide our heads in the sand. We can. We truly can. A few years ago, I warned that the World Bank, the same one that's running the trust fund here, made their projections because they deal with oil. That's for the next 5 to 7 years, it is definitely going to rise. It was as if they knew a war was coming in the Ukraine too, that would affect these things. It's nearly as if they are the ones planning these things. Like how they said the WHO plans when you got to put out a virus to get injections rolling so that big corp, listen, I don't believe in conspiracy theories, but sometimes when things look too good to be true, you gotta start really looking at what's going on. But oil is going to go up. We got our Valentine's gift from the minister, a significant increase in gasoline and diesel. But for me, diesel was the catch, because diesel is part of the fuel farm that GB uses. And any time diesel goes up, that means crude went up. We have a problem. That means fuel clause is going to go up. And what I miss at this point in time is a discussion, be it even for 1 megawatt, a discussion on alternative energy. A discussion where we can tell the Netherlands, or we can tell any public-private partnership we want to go with. Listen, we would like you to put on a solar farm for us. We have land. We have the Great Basalt Pond. So you got land. Sol made a presentation to government, to parliament, to put down, I think it was 35 megawatts in the Great Basalt Pond. That would yield electricity at a cost of about 10 to 15 cents maximum for a duration of at least 7-8 years on the lifespan of those panels. And then you go into a replacement cost. Mind you, you have to look at the numbers. 35 megawatt, that is about 70% of GB's operations. But solar panels don't give light, they don't give electricity at night. So if you don't want to go into the major investment in the solar plant, which is the batteries, you can use them during 8 hours a day, 6 hours a day, and supplement GB with electricity so that their engines will run out of peak of the solar time, and we would save about 25% on the fuel that we are doing today. GB, in a discussion I had, I was trying to fish for numbers, but GB is spending any place around $3 to $4 million per month on fuel. So that means if we do the solar, we can save at least $1 million a month, $1 million just on fuel cost. And because the production cost is 15 cents and not 25 cents, you save another 10 cents guilders, another 10 cents guilders on the 70% of the electricity that you make for 6 hours. So if we were doing 50 megawatt and I take out 8 hours, I want to believe that in the daytime we have peak hours with all the stores open, etc., 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 that we would be any place around 15 megawatts, maybe 20. And from that, 70% is coming from solar. Do the math, people. Do the math. Listen, we're going to save millions. The offer from Sol is because they were invested in everything. Right now, we are fully invested in Sol because we take their fuel. Without Sol, GB is nothing. So please, instead of yapping your mouths in government, go and sit on the table with Sol, sit on the table with GB, and do something for this country. You're talking about making it resilient? I gave you an idea how to make it resilient because you all can't think. That is clear. You all just don't have the competency to think. Think out of the box and think, make things happen for this country. It just simply ain't there anymore. That I am 100% convinced of. And not only with the Minister of Romy, with other ministers also. And as time comes, I'm going to start exposing, like I said. But the little Minister of Romy, he got my attention because he's a little bold. So I'm going to decide to show people who he truly is and what his ability truly is, because it's not much. Don't even fool you with that. Now, when we look at Phillipsburg and we look at how do we bring life back to Phillipsburg, one of the things was in a newspaper article where the marina life, having a marina too, we have Dock Maarten, we have Bobby's Marina, even at the harbor we have the big yachts coming in, that is the start of bringing life back to Phillipsburg. But there's a lot more needed. For there to be life, there must be people living. We have some people living in the Down Street area, but Mid Street and Up Street, it is a handful in between here and there. We need to bring back life to town. The boardwalk needs to be rejuvenated. Front Street and Back Street, people used to love to go shopping at night, looking through the windows and seeing all the beauties. The whole place was lit up. But after the hurricanes and after the lootings, only steel shutters are there now, and those shut down at night, and there is nothing, because all the lights in the stores that used to shine through the windows and light up Front Street and Back Street, those days are gone. And those days are gone because of primarily security. We don't know how to behave ourselves, and we want to take what belongs to others the easy way so we don't have to work. And that's unfortunate. But these are the things that we're going to have to fix to come back and bring back Phillipsburg in the glory days it had. Because if we like it or not, Phillipsburg is the capital of St. Maarten. But everybody has moved right now to Simpsonby, which is also a great city, a great town in St. Maarten. And it's a nice strip, a great nightlife strip. But a lot of businesses and restaurants have moved there, because in Phillipsburg, we have no parking, and the security aspect is not what it is. People get robbed. People used to come to eat in town and get robbed walking back to their car. This was a phenomenon a few years ago, that people stopped eating in town. Unless they could park up in front of the restaurant, people would stop it because they were being robbed. Tourists were afraid to go out at night. Hotels were telling them, don't walk down Front Street at night, you're going to be robbed. As if it was the norm. You see, these are the things we got to understand. If we really want to change Phillipsburg, we got to change those things too. We really got to do it. Now, something that caught my eye, because I am also a diabetic, was the amount of stroke victims we have in St. Maarten. I found it a pity that it was only when the royal family arrived in St. Maarten that this really became newsworthy. I am sure the hospital has said it before, but I didn't see it carried in the news. And if it was, my apologies. But I found it a difficult pill to swallow. That every week, 1 or 2 stroke victims, heart attack victims reach the medical center. That's a lot for a small population like St. Maarten. And it has to do with people that are diabetic, people that have cardiovascular diseases. That means your veins then blocking up, you're getting blood clots and all those things because of the crazy things, the greasy stuff we just most probably eat, all the sweet stuff we just most probably drink. So again, I think it's a scary number to have heard. But I think it's a number that should wake us up, and I'm going to get into it as we go along in the unveiling of the Now Manifesto. We're going to start talking about health and wellness and taxation. How do they tie into each other? What do they really mean for us? What does education mean for health and wellness? All of these things have their place in our manifesto. And as we go along, I will roll them out, like I'm going to roll out some things today. We will roll out little pieces just to start whetting your appetite, what St. Maarten is in for, which treat they're in for. Now, what I had an issue with too in a newspaper article was this 721 district property and the licensing story. I was kind of surprised that the Minister of TIAT ventured down that road. Yes, he said, I read a few things and I'm going to be looking into more things. As long as you're doing that, don't talk about it. You're a minister, my brother. You are not Johnny on the street selling newspapers. You are not there to give melee. You're there to look at a very serious issue. A fire that caught in a place where they could not have outed it very easily, which means fire restrictions might have been an issue, etc., etc. The Prime Minister very wisely kept arm's length and said, I am awaiting the report of the fire chief. You, on the other hand, went into licensing and family. Don't go there, brother. That's not what this is about. You said they had a license since 2014. That's 9 years before you got here. That license was there. How that license was given? If that's what you want to investigate, then do that. But you got to be careful playing out that family have problems, because then you're going to get problems yourself. And knowing the family, it wouldn't surprise me they already poke a letter on you through a lawyer. Now, many people, and last night again I heard the cry from some people that spoke to me at the Congress, the World Bank must be leaving St. Maarten because they cannot continue with the crazy practices that they're doing in St. Maarten. And I said, I don't know if they're going to leave, but I had the honor to tell them that the president, David Malpass, has decided to leave as nobody wanted him anymore as president of the World Bank because of his practices. The World Bank president is appointed by the American government, the American president. The last one, David Malpass, was appointed by Trump, President Trump, and the new one that they are looking at right now will be appointed by the president presently, Joe Biden of America. The IMF, their president is appointed by the European Union. That's the general practice they have with each other, and they do that. But again, the reason they didn't want him is because a good gentleman does not believe in global warming. Yet the World Bank is executing programs all over the world regarding global warming. You see how crazy things are? The man that's running the organization does not believe in the number one problem in the world, global warming, that will destroy the world. That will destroy people being able to live in this world. Boy, sometimes, no? You think we got problems? I think the world got more problems than us. Let me go over to something totally different. I have themed it prison blues because I don't know what else to call it. But if the situation at Point Blanche prison wasn't serious already, the mere fact that we have 136 persons waiting to serve their sentence as of October 2022, that's a crazy something. That ain't normal. Let me be very clear here, no? And I don't care if people feel offended with what I'm going to say now. But if a man or a woman commits a crime and they are sentenced by the courts of law in our judicial system, then they have to sit their time. That's, you commit the crime, brother or sister, you do the time. But you got to make sure that I have the opportunity, or the sister has the opportunity to do their time. I get 6 months, I get a year, I get 2 years, I get 3 years. I can't be waiting 8 years for you to call me. I can't be waiting 5 years for you to call me. I shouldn't be waiting 6 months for you to call me. I know when I'm sentenced that I would like a few days to get my things in order so that when I leave, my family and all the banking, etc., is taken care of. I understand that piece. That's a humanitarian something. I understand that, and I respect that when that is given to the person to do. But I cannot accept what we are doing now. We are destroying families because the person that is sentenced, their life stops then and there. They lose their job. Their family goes into recession. Now, what do I mean with this? If the jails are full, and it's a Maarten, worse yet, if we were at full capacity, we were 120. That would have been 40 people. We would still be talking about 96 people. So we have a structural issue. That structural issue is made up by two things. One, the prison might be too small, or the way we hand out verdicts here in this country is totally wrong. They said I took bribes and I got 32 months. The fella in Holland took bribes. He get 120 hours community service. Do you see what I mean? That's why we fill up there. Look, rapists, killers, that's a different story. Armed robberies, going at people. I understand those things, that people are punished. But the way we do it, with the type of sentences we are handing out, up there will never be empty. All we got to do is keep expanding. That's what we got to do. But I want to make a proposal to the courts and to the minister. Because people cannot continue to be held hostage for when they can get a call. They can't build their future because you can pull the rug from under their feet anytime. They ain't going to go to no bank, take no loan to do nothing because they might have to go to jail. When we don't know. And that's a problem. No shoes, we don't need a bigger jail. We need better for our people. Yes, those that commit a crime must be punished. But the way we are sentencing people is also totally out of whack. I was amazed how much of undocumented people we have. 25% of the jail population is undocumented. 25%. If that doesn't tell you something, because that would be that 25% of our population is also undocumented, which would put it at 15,000 people right now. You see, we need to understand carefully what's happening in our country. But again, I can't fix that overnight. But what we can do as a government is that we can make a proposal for the people that have been sentenced. If you have been sentenced for more than 4 years ago to sit prison time, your time should be wiped off your slate. You should remain with your police record. But I think waiting to go to jail for 4 years is more than sitting a year in jail. Because you have no life. Your family has no life. And people say, oh, my God, but you crazy. If it was you and your children didn't know when daddy was leaving or when mommy was going to jail, how would you see it? You see, we have to be cautious the way we treat our people. We can put an ankle bracelet on people and cut down on their movements as a form of punishment instead of putting them in jail at 300 guilders a day. We can put people on house arrest. And that means they can't leave their house. Because if they do, the bracelet will beep. And the parole officers will know. But these people, we can also say, you know what? Go and work. And weekends, you're staying home. And if it's a church-going person, between Sunday 7:30 and 10 o'clock, I'm going to allow you to go to church. And then go back home. There are enough ways we can control this. We will need to hire 5 new people at the parole board group that can monitor also and work with these people, these 136 people, because they're not murderers, otherwise they would have been in jail. That's the problem we have. We can deal with this differently, but we must want to do this. People that have a sentence of less than 6 months, make it community service. Why you want to put them in jail? We just had a case. 2 fellas are given 4 months jail time because they committed perjury. They lied in courts. Why did they lie in courts? Most probably to protect somebody they admire or love. Give them community service. Let them do something back for the community. No, we're going to put them for 4 months, 120 days at 300 guilders. We're going to put them in jail. As if we got money coming up with backside. Because that's 36,000 guilders we just spent there. Our judges got to start waking up. Instead of being these crazy people. They come down here on a mission. Let's lock up everything. This is crazy, man. This is crazy. I am not professing that crime shouldn't be punished. But the way we are treating people in this country, we are breaking every human right that they have. And who don't like that? Crap or smoke your pipe. Because we're professing one thing and we're doing a completely different thing. You see, too often we leave these things go unchecked. I have decided it's time to make certain things a little different. Because the money we are using to lock up people is money we can use to ensure that they don't commit these crimes. Look, the fighting among youngsters is so out of control that we have no clue really how to deal with it. I spoke of a boot camp. I've gotten in contact with people in the Netherlands to try to understand how do you all do it in the Netherlands. This lady also did it in Curacao and in Aruba. And I'm going to be getting her information and I'm going to be working on it because the lady was supposed to be down here too. But her paperwork got lost. So, nobody came, nobody doing nothing. Yet we found 6 guns on youngsters last year. And this year already, fighting is out of control. But we're locking up people for lying in courts. You see what I mean? This I can't comprehend it. Look, again, crime doesn't pay. I agree with that. I don't see that always in our system because I've seen people that did serious crimes. One, they wanted millions from, the other one was allowed to keep millions because he was a crown witness. So crime does pay, depending on which side of the fence you are when you're being convicted. But again, I want to understand why we can't get 136 bracelets, put it on these people, and we move on. And we move on. Because just last week, another guy was sentenced to 4 years. So the sentences going to continue. I noticed the minister is trying to get the prisoners that are undocumented serve time in their country. And there are agreements like this. There are agreements where the people go to their country and they sit their time there, especially when you're dealing with murder victims, with murderers, rapists. These are not people that you can let go. You can't let them go. You're going to have to put them up there. Somebody takes somebody's life, they got to sit their time. There is no ankle bracelet for that person. But if a fella had a fight and you give him 6 months, I think you can use his energy better in community service and letting him being able to work and provide for his family than putting him in jail and putting his family in a position that they cannot take care of themselves, and the only way they can do that is by committing a crime, because unfortunately our country doesn't have what we call a social catch net. We don't have it. You go and give you a few hundred guilders understand, and they anticipate and believe you can make a living. You will survive. You can put your children through school. You can put food on the table. You can put GB bills and pay. No, you can't. The caregiver is gone. He in jail. We have to look at these things. We really got to look at it better. And I'm just making a proposal because the undocumented workers, sorry, the undocumented prisoners, I don't know what crimes they have, but I'm sure some of them are very serious crimes. And that means they're going to be with us for 10 plus years. And anybody sitting up there for 10 years would have costed this country close to $1 million. That's right. It would have costed us close to $1 million, I believe. So we got to be careful. We got to be careful with what we are doing and how we are locking up people. We really, really have to be very careful because, like I told you, it's 300 guilders a day. 10 years would have made that 3,000, and multiply the 3,000 by 365 days. You would see the figure you're getting. So, you know, we got to be easy. We got to be very, very cautious how we go with it. Tax reform. Now, I'm going to give a plug to a politician. I normally don't like to do these things, but I think MP De Weaver said it best last week. I think it was last week, the week before Friday, I think it was. They had a finance meeting. The Minister of Finance was there, and the MP said, this is what we have to do in St. Maarten. We have to stop talking about it and just reform it now. And I wholeheartedly support this. Why do I say this? We want to reform the complete tax system, and that's not needed right now. We can reform piece for piece as long as it continues in line with what we have. Now let me give you a simple example, because I believe that the vision of this government, the vision of the Minister of Finance, is a little thwarted in the sense of he's afraid to do what he has to do because he might fail. Now, if you don't fail in your job or in your life, you're not living it or working it. It's that simple. Everyone will fail. We all make mistakes. All of us do, believe you me. But I think that there are a few things right now that can be done that will not really create any burden directly on the residents. Let me give you a simple example. We have a lot of people buying condos here, and those condos cost a lot of money. And all these people are known at, for example, the cadastre, because that's where that property is registered. And we go there, we get their names, and they get a form. Be the company, be the person, they get a form of a non-resident account, a non-resident. And that non-resident, you fill in your taxes every year. And will it yield money this year? No, most probably not this year, but next year for sure. But there are condos that are finished already. And those people are living abroad and they're not registered in our tax system. Yet, they rent out that apartment and make money. Now, MP George Pontiflet was crying foul about the yachts. But the yachts don't make their money in St. Maarten. The yacht makes their money on the sea. But the condo makes its money in St. Maarten. So yes, you can charge a condo fee, which is a normal something. I think every week or every month with the timeshares, they just pay a fee, a $75 fee. You can also charge a fixed fee that you own a condo. You own a condo, you pay $2,000 a year, sorry. That's a condo fee. But every time you rent it, you have to pay tax because the money was derived in St. Maarten. And you can pay it in Miami in an account, but you need to pay for the income you made here now. This is where this whole Airbnb also going. People make money here, but they don't pay the taxes here because they don't live here. All those non-residents we can grab now. We don't need to wait for next week. We don't need to wait for next year. We can do that now because the law provides for that already. It's the Form B, the non-resident form. It exists, but we don't do it. One that I will not call mine because that's not the type of person I am, but I had a meeting and I heard MP Bryson speak about the flyover tax. Planes that fly over St. Maarten need to pay for using the airspace. They do it in the other countries, but they don't do it by us. Why not? Because it isn't something that we have to send a bill and see who was flying up there. No. In the aviational business, all these flight plans are put into a system. And if you fly over St. Maarten, you're going to pay the tax in St. Maarten, and it automatically goes to the account. That's how it works. These things are automated. And all we do at the end of the month, listen carefully, is collect a check or have it transferred to your account. So the civil aviation can do something here on behalf of government. But we don't. The question is why? You see, we have to do some things that are not popular, but will do good for this country. I firmly believe that the import tax must be brought to St. Maarten. The French government has agreed to work with the Dutch government on this side, north and south, will each introduce 8%. So there isn't no benefit if you land in Great Bay or if you land in Galles Bay. 8%. So it will not change anything for Dutch side. But we can then get rid of this elusive turnover tax. And I call it elusive because it's an unfair tax. It is not a tax that helps you as a business. It's a tax that can destroy you as a business. The tax is a tax that you pay on goods that you sold. It's not a tax that you add on to your price. Listen carefully to me. It's a tax that you pay on goods that you sold. So if your markup was 10%, you just lost 5% on the TOT. And this goes on from distributor to retailer to mom and pop. At the end of the day, your 3 TOTs further, you're 15% further. While if you bring in the import duty, that's it. Once it's in, it's in. And it's sold just with the profit margins, not with the profit margins and a tax. And while the law says you cannot put TOT on your price, please, people just put it as their markup. So TOT is an enemy of the resident and a thorn in the side of the business. So we can move it and replace it with an import duty tax. And the difference that we will make is about 50 million guilders more. Those are the numbers ruling out of the calculations. So again, this can be done easily because the system to do the taxation of the import duties is already by the customs in the harbor. It's there already. We will have to put the same system down at the airport because those are our 2 ports of entry. That's where our stuff comes. And I'm sure fellas will start to become creative and important. And guess what? If you break the law, we have bracelets to give you. You can do community service. So again, all I'm saying is there are options for this country. We can do these things. We just have to do it the right way. I heard the minister talking about he gonna drop the taxation when you import things from abroad as a resident. And I'm saying, but if you're going to do that as government, then you don't believe in your business community. Because your business community is paying to employ the people in your country that pay wage tax. They're the ones that take the electricity from GB to keep GB afloat and TLM's internet to keep them afloat. You are destroying the economy when you allow people to bring things in from abroad under the pretense we have more choice, it is cheaper, and most importantly, the quality is better. So we then need a consumer protection agency that checks the quality that's sold in the stores in St. Maarten. And if that's not good, ensure it is good so people have no real reason. Because remember, if I buy something on Backstreet, it ain't no good, I can bring it back and change it. If I buy something on Amazon, it ain't no good, I got to pay to send it back to hopefully get a change. And then they're going to tell you, well, you know what, we didn't buy it. We don't sell that directly. You have to go to this and this and this company, which is in Timbuktu, and they ain't worried with you because they don't have no trade policy. You see, these are the type of things that a lot of us don't understand and don't know. And we shun our own businesses way too often. Now, I ain't going to tell you some businesses overdo it. I ain't going to say that because some of them do. But I'm saying at this point in time, if we, all of us, don't take care of we, nobody going to take care of we. Let us not fool ourselves. Look, luxury tax is something that can be put on cars, but also on boats and on planes. Those are luxuries, you know. Owning a plane is a luxury. Owning a boat is a luxury. Because if it wasn't, everybody would have a plane and a boat. Owning $100,000 car is a luxury. I'm not talking about heavy equipment and special equipment like an ambulance and those things. I'm talking about luxury. So you're going to tax it across the board. If I can have a boat and I can put $500 of gasoline every weekend to go Anguilla or go Flat Island, I can pay $1,000, $2,000 tax a year. For God's sakes, man. Then I go 4 weekends less. This is how you make it work for all of us. I'm happy that we're going to terminate the tax holiday. I think that's a great thing. I think the exemption on TOT for casinos and so, that might be a little transition now because the minute we do the import duties, the TOT is gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And then basically what has to happen is we have to check the floats at the casinos. Just like how they are done in other countries. They check the floats, they check the machines. And that way we know how much they made. And on that they pay. Not on a fixed fee. Because they can make 10 million and they're paying us 50,000 guilders a month. Because that's what it is right now. See, people get upset. Oh, why are you going to the casino? I'm not going to the casinos. I'm going at the taxation that should be paid on the monies earned in this country. That's what it's about. It's not about a person. It's not about a business. It's about what's due to us. We have to get the slice of the pie we deserve as country. We need to. Because if we are not going to, then why are we worrying running a country? Some people have put up country for sale and think it's a joke. It's not a joke. That's not a joke. That's to show how stupid you are. Because if you don't believe in your own country, the rest of the world sure as hell ain't believing in it. You know, I believe that if we do the transaction tax, 11 billion guilders goes through our banks every year. And if we would do a 0.5% transaction tax on those monies, nobody feels it. Unless you move in money. But most of the money that's moving is not ours. But because it's for nothing, they do it. But a 0.5% is still low. They won't run away. And that money is gathered by the central bank for us. Because all banks send it to the central bank. And that's our money at the end of the quarter, mid-year, or year. But it can yield you any place around 50 million. These are things that can be done that will not affect the man on the street right now, but will put money in the coffers of the government to ensure that we can do much more for this country. But for one reason or the other, we're not doing these things. We always come with, oh, we got to do this, and oh, we got to do this. No, you can do this right now. It has nothing to do with the foreign exchange tax. That's a whole different something. This is a transaction tax that fellas in Texas might be making when they send money to China, or Chinese make when they send money to Panama through banks by us. That's what it is. No more, no less. It can be done. You just need to understand it to want to do it. And there are people in St. Maarten that know exactly how to do this. So again, I agree, and I believe that Airbnb is a tax we should take. And guess what? We set the tax, not Airbnb. People have the impression that Airbnb sets the tax. No, we as country tell them, any property you sell through your platform in St. Maarten, we want 5% or we want 10% tax. And that's what you will get. If the people that are selling on Airbnb, the guest is paying for it, not the owner. The guest pays for it. When you jump on a plane, you pay for all the taxes. When you jump on a cruise, you pay for all the taxes that the countries ask for. Otherwise, the ship wouldn't go there. If the ship don't agree, and say, oh, I ain't going there, okay, good. If all countries say, we want a $20 head tax, the ship could do two things, you know. Go sail in another part of the world, or stay sailing here and pay the 20%, pay the $20. And if you go to 5 ports, that means it's $100 more on your cruise ticket. And you know that cruising in the Caribbean is 45% of the cruise industry. It shows you the strength we have as Caribbean. But we can't do it right. This one get $3, that one getting $7. Because that's the strength of the cruise ship. They know how to manipulate. And because we in the Caribbean are crabs in a bucket, and we always trying to outsmart the other one, we always outsmart ourselves. And we never will ever get what we do. Thank God though, Maarten has a very smart fella at the port right now. Very smart. He knows the cruise industry in the palm of his hands. He worked in it. And they're working with him now. They're saying thank you. And I'm happy, very, very happy that we have him running the port right now. No critique to the former port director, but I believe this young man will do us good. Very good self. Now, taxation on things like liquor, tobacco, and sugar products. I will agree with that under one condition. That money does not go to government. That money must go towards the wellness of the country. Because cigarettes and liquor and all those chubbies, they make you diabetic, they give you cancer and all those type of things. So I would want that money to go to a wellness fund by SZV. Correctly, you hear me right, by SZV. Because they can do certain things. And one of the things that I know that we have in SZV is a friend in agriculture, a friend in sustainable living, a friend that will do things as a corporate body to ensure that agriculture, fishery, animal husbandry finds its right place in countries in Maarten. Be it through investments in technology, be it in helping gardens prosper all over the place, be it that people start to grow their own vegetables. That part can then be developed because the money that we got from the liquor, the tobacco, and the sugary products goes there. That's how you build these type of things. Not giving it to government and then telling government go do it for me. Because it ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. So again, there are a lot of things that we can do But one of the most important things in St. Maarten right now is that we have to understand what it costs to live. And minimum wage is not that cost. St. Maarten has to agree to its livable wage. The SER has run that calculation. The indications that when I look at Curacao with 2,624 guilders a month, and we being 15-20% more expensive, it will put us any place between 3,000 and 3,500 guilders. So I will take the high end of 3,500 guilders a month and say that's our livable wage. Now, we need to understand that this 3,500 guilders now becomes the threshold for taxation. You don't tax below 3,500 guilders. That means anybody that earns less than 3,500 guilders cannot be taxed, including pensions that had a benefit of the past. That's what it means. That can be done now. What we have to do is figure out how much money will be lost if we tax from 3,500 guilders below. That falls away. How much is that? Now, we know that 70% of our population earns less than 3,500 guilders. We know that too. So we know as a government and as a people that 70% of our population lives in poverty. We know that, and we are not doing nothing about that. That needs to change now, people. Not tomorrow, not next week. And we can make those changes if we truly want. Margaret Thatcher said once, if you want to change your life, you need to vote for it. Don't wish it. You need to vote for it. And those are opportunities that are going to be granted to this community in the next election. Listen, there are a lot of things that need to be done, like property tax. Are we going to leave it in the books and then there's a rogue government and we have a problem and they start taxing everybody, or do we move it off? These are conversations that need to be done, need to be had with people that own land. Because those that don't own it shouldn't talk on it, because they have nothing to lose. I'm a landowner. I know what it means if I have to go pay tax on my land. Most probably, I'd have to sell it or eventually lose it. And whomever gets it will eventually, unless they're a stinking millionaire, will have to pay or lose. Because that's what land tax does in countries where 70% is living in poverty. All the people that own land today, if land tax would hit them, they can't afford it. Because nobody come with a 1 cent per square meter land tax. They're going to come with a guilder 50. Because in domain right now, you pay 240 up to 4 guilder 80. So if you would say, I'm going to do 4 guilder 80, because that's what we pay for government land, and you're going to put that on the normal man that owns his land, and he has 2,000 square meters, that's 10,000 guilders a year. Where they going to find that? That's 1,000 guilders a month nearly. Where they going to find that? They're going to have to steal or do something. You understand why it's so dangerous? You got to understand what I'm saying. Otherwise, we ain't going to go no place with this. Let me browse down, because I think I have a concept on wage tax, but I will leave that for the manifesto so that that can be talked about. The EU has decided that Aruba and Curacao are going on the grey listing when it comes to foreign tax havens. And I was kind of surprised when I read the article, but I was more surprised when I read the end of the article. Because the European Union, twice a year, they update their list on so-called gray areas, and black listing. Aruba and Curacao made the blacklist on February 17th in the newspapers, and they blacklisted the BVI, so Tortola and them, Russia, the Marshall Islands, and Costa Rica. And this is because of Aruba and Curacao not adopting their tax laws and practices to meet the international standards of transparency and fairness. You hear that on transparency? All right. You get a year to fix this, otherwise you are blacklisted. The EU does not speak of tax havens, they speak of uncooperative jurisdictions. Now, I'm going to read a piece that basically will give you insight on what's really happening. What's remarkable and is highlighted in this article is that the tax experts, civil society organizations, claim that the scope is far too narrow that the EU uses and does not targeting its own member states like ting 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 the Netherlands and Luxembourg, who clearly show the tax haven characteristics. When the EU list doesn't include countries like the Cayman Islands and Bermuda, known worldwide to be countries full of shell companies of the super rich, then my opinion and that of many others is that this list is just a damn joke. But because it's an EU list, oh my God, we're going to die. You see, you gotta understand that shell companies are used to funnel money from big corporations and the super rich. And the EU protects that by not putting these countries on that list. Or is it that England has decided that if this is the game we're going to play, because the Caymans and Bermuda fall under England, then we're going to have some serious problems. You know, there are a lot of things, but you see, what I found so strange in this whole thing is the EU never had an issue with the Russian oligarchs that were hiding money, especially in the Netherlands, in the Zuidas. They own down there all the super yachts. It's only when the Ukraine war came out and they had to take a position that this became an issue. And it is most probably because these fellows are not putting money in certain places, that those places have not come on their list. But let's move over to our budget. Because budget 2023, is it a real budget? Because they said it gone now to the Council of Advice, and from there I would believe it can go to Parliament, but I'm a little pessimistic because when I read CFT's position on why the loan was denied last year, the 15 million, because the overrun of some 30 plus million, so in total 70 million on budget 2022 amended, that they did not agree with the infrastructure loan anymore. That's why no road works were basically done, because the minister was promised 10 million and he had nothing. So it's going to have more problems coming our way, because I don't see where we stand with the discussions on the loans that we owe that are due in October. Yes, they're talking, but nothing is being said. How can you approve a budget if you have nothing to go on? Because the state secretary didn't say, I'll give you 50% off, I'll give you 25% off. No, we're going to talk about it in February and in March. But you have nothing yet. Unless you're not planning to present this budget before you get that money, and you're hoping to get it before the 21st of March so that you're not in default again, then there's no real discussion on a budget at this point in time. Because I don't hear much talk about it either in any time, because debt cancellation is a desire, but it's not a reality at this point in time. What is a reality is what's going to happen next week. Am I saying it correct? Yeah. Next week, Friday, I think it is, the 3rd of March. Our Prime Minister, Prime Minister of Aruba and Curacao and the State Secretary of the Netherlands are going to sign an agreement. All the agreements can be different per island, per country. So Aruba agreement can be different to the one from Curacao and of St. Maarten and vice versa. But that's a binding agreement. It's not a consensus law, but it's a binding mutual agreement, excluding the parliaments of all three countries and allowing the governments to sign this country into anything. That's the rejoicing we did with Coho. Coho gone. No more consensus law. This is the first time I'm hearing of a consensus mutual agreement. That if tomorrow we have an issue and we need to change our mutual agreement, Curacao and Aruba gotta also agree beside the Netherlands, with whom we have that agreement. Because our mutual agreement is not with Aruba or with Curacao, because they're not the ones that are part and parcel of the country reforms that we're doing. Because that's what this agreement is about. And that's the scary part. And because we don't know that yet, because the Prime Minister hasn't uttered a word about it yet. And remember, it has to be in our budget. That's why I'm saying, do we have a real budget at this point in time? What really went to the Council of Advice? What's the input on that budget right now from CFT? What's Parliament's input going to be? These are questions that I can't get an answer. I don't have an answer to give you. And because of that, I don't want to go deeper into it right now until I have some more. We're having a bigger problem putting our beloved ones to rest. Country St. Maarten is running out or has run out of cemetery space. While we have a few graves to be dug yet and a few cellars to be filled yet, we basically come to an end of the line. We can't go higher into the hill because it's becoming unstable to continue building like that and basically unreachable now. We are now confronted that we need to do something in the country for a new cemetery. I know there was a lady, Mrs. Engel, that for years tried her best. I was there myself, I can tell you about it, to build a new cemetery because she had a burial insurance company, so having a cemetery, having access to graves was always a good thing. But we are running out of that. So I think it's time for us to start talking honestly with each other. A lot of us still want to bury our relatives in the traditional ways. The government doesn't subsidize cremation, so that is not the first option people go for. If government says, listen, we are willing to subsidize cremation, it means that at the end of the whole process, there's an urn. That urn either goes home with you, or that urn can be placed in a mausoleum that we can build that can hold, for example, 1,000 urns. And that would just take one piece of land that we use to build a location to put 1,000 urns. It then moves us automatically into a different era of burial. We can also say, listen, is there maybe another place where we can create a nice cemetery, seeing that space in St. Maarten is extremely limited. We have the ring road. Maybe a piece of the ring road that is not going to be used anyway for what it was built for, that maybe we can build a nice cemetery there. Maybe even the zoo, the property of the zoo. I know it's earmarked for something for children, but the way we have developed the light industry, even into heavy industry now, in that area, I think the usage for children has past its true lifespan. And maybe it's something we can look at and say, maybe we can build a nice cemetery there, and we can build the vaults that are needed, because you can't go down because of water, but you can maybe build a few hundred vaults there. Again, food for thought. I am not saying this is what we have to do. I'm just trying to give some ideas that we understand we can do some of these things if we truly want to do some of these things. There are areas. The ring road, my dear, is not only on the pond fill. Some people believe the ring road is only on the pond fill. The ring road starts by the roundabout, the salt pickers roundabout, and goes all the way around past the zoo, comes all the way down by Dutch Tours. All the way down on Arch Road is the ring road. That's the ring in the salt pond. Wherever you see white sand, that was part of the ring road. And we can find the location that is accessible easily to do something like this. Again, it's just food for thought at this point in time. I am not telling you we have to do it there. But what I want to say, though, that we can do on the ring road, and I am going to work until I make it a reality, is to build a drag strip. St. Maarten drag racers have been promised a drag strip for at least 15 years now, at least. And every time we find the excuse not to do it. Then it is we don't have no land, then it is we can't fill the pond, then it is the noise, then it is this, then it is that, and then the organizations. Listen, when we talk about the carrying capacity of the Great Salt Pond, we cannot fill. You know why? Because the carrying capacity means so much water we should be able to hold at any given time. Unless we create the mechanism to ensure we can maintain a lower quantity all the time. That's what it means. It means that if we put some big pumps in certain places, we can take the water out at that rate. Because flood is flood. Pumps break, you're going to flood. But you'll still flood 2 hours later. So again, we got to learn to deal with reality. We can make space if we truly want to. I am a proponent of using the ring road. The ring road was built to have a road. We are not going to build that road. You know why? We don't have the 30 million to do it. And we're going to have it for now. But the people that want to do the drag race, and the drifting and whatever all you call it, they have capital. They have public-private partnerships. We bring the land, they build the track. Drag racing is a very expensive sport, but it's also a touristic attraction. When races are held in St. Maarten, the people that are coming from the other islands, they are coming here for the races. They're coming here to stay in hotels. They don't sleep in the cars, you know. They don't sleep in the containers. They have money to send over cars and containers. They got money to sleep in a hotel, to rent a car, to eat in your restaurants. Because our racers, when they go over, that's what they do. It is a very expensive sport. So it will yield the necessary income. Walt Disney said, if you build it for them, they will come. We have to build it for them. They're going to come. The racers in St. Maarten have asked for this so long. And we have lied and promised so often that we have to stop that. I'm going to make a commitment to you all. Under the now lead, there will be a drag strip. Otherwise, don't put us back. I think we have enough places to do it. We have more than one option. I know I can pick up the phone and call an engineering friend of mine now in Public Works. And he's going to tell me, Bonks, let me meet. Let me trash it out. Let me get his plan ready. The problem is above. The problem is not the floor. The problem is above. But okay, we're going to do what we got to do. Let me give you all, because I'm not going to go on too long today anymore, let me give you all a little something that you might not have expected me to do. Give you all a little insight on my case. See, a lot of people thought that I was finished. And I've always said, no, I still have another case. And on Monday, last week, after my show, I went to courts to a hearing where we want to see, or we would ask for the witnesses. And naturally, it took 2 days, and then the Herald gave me the front page attention I so eloquently was screaming for. But I understand. It sells pages, sensation sells pages. The story was the same story of the last time, and they added on 1 or 2 words, or 1 or 2 sentences I want to believe, and that was what my lawyer said, that she had to fight. She had a fight on her hands for me. Because I am accused of being the government. I'm accused of having done everything that a government normally has to do with all the checks and balances. That's the problem. But my case wasn't about proving something, because they didn't have any proof. They didn't have proof that I took a bribe. So the judge decided to make proof and say he heard one of them say he gave me a bribe. That's what happened. All the email correspondence is there on the discussion between the judge and the 2 lawyers. When I was being accused of having done all these things, they needed permission to try me. I asked to see the documents. I was denied to see 1 document. Nothing was I allowed to see. And the day they got permission to prosecute me, they sent me a 5,000-page file. But they said if I saw anything, I would unravel this case because it was so intertwined. The landfill has nothing to do with the sewage plant or with Kimsha. They had nothing to do with each other because they were not the same people. The fact of the matter, though, that others were able to see all their documents so they could defend themselves in courts, clearly showed what my lawyer said. From day one, I never had a fair trial because I was not to be proven innocent. I had to be proven guilty in first instance. And many people rejoiced when I was convicted in December of 2021. They said, thank God he out of the way. Well, I got news for you. I right here. I ain't going no place. I will be vindicated in courts. I guarantee you that. I'm not going to wish this. We're going to make this happen. With the evidence, with the witnesses that were granted to us, because we were granted all witnesses, we will show to the public of St. Maarten that yes, we do have a judicial system, but we do also have a tainted system. And that needs to be taken care of. I believe in the judges that are there right now. I sincerely believe in their integrity. I told the previous judge in first instance that I didn't believe in him and that he was corrupt. And he proved me right. He did prove me that. Because he made up statements and he falsified them by signing them as if they were the truth. When the people never uttered those words that he wrote, that they gave me a bribe. They never said it. In none of their statements by the TBO did they ever say they gave me money. So the judge decided in the trial that he heard one person say so. And that was the centerpiece of my conviction. Because if I was not convicted for bribery, I'd have been in Parliament while I fight the other charges. Because for Kim Shah, I was acquitted. And for the miscellaneous tel post of the sewage plant, I will be acquitted. Because the witnesses that will be heard now can say what it is. That in the past, we would adjust the bills to ensure we did not have to do budget amendments. So if I fix the police station, if I fix the roof at the police station, or the gate at the police station, or the sewage system in the jail, it is not the sewage plant for which the budget was made. But I will put sewage plant because I don't want a budget amendment. And I would adjust what was done to suit the budget that was approved of the sewage plant. For that, I was convicted for falsifying the bills and committing fraud by paying those bills. Bills that were for the government of St. Maarten. And they said, I enriched myself, my family, and the St. Maarten Lions Club. The St. Maarten Lions Club permission was granted by the minister that was sitting there because it's also a shelter. But when you want to beat a man, you go find a stick. But I'll tell you this much. I will be freed of all charges. I will run this election. And with the grace of God, I will win this election hands down. My brothers and sisters, I want to thank you all very much for giving me some of the time that you always give me. I was extremely honored last night to be made the deputy leader of the Now Party. My program will not be political oriented on Now alone. I always try to bring out pieces that I believe the public needs to know. But because I have tied myself to the Now, I will sometimes delve into things that we want to do as the Now Party for this country. Because the Now Party is built on loyalty. Not only to my fellow candidates and those that I will work with in Parliament, but also to you all, the people of St. Maarten. I believe we need to be loyal to each other. And by doing that, I think we can do a lot of things for each other. Next week, Monday, I will not have a program. I will be doing something else. But the week after that, I think it's March 6th, I'll be back on Facebook Live with you all. I want to say, have a great week. Enjoy your Monday. It's a little earlier for us to be signing out than usual, but Bunks is out today. Take care of yourself. See you all March 6th.